Hello, Scott Wonder here from Wonderwoods. Welcome to another Wonderwoods video. Recently, I went and picked up an American elm log. It was really big, and I got some video footage of it, and I was going to put together a little video about American elm. And I thought, well, you should probably know more about American elm, and I can tell you how much I love it. So, I got together some boards here in the shop, right behind me, so I can give you a little rundown on American elm, tell you how great it is. First of all, American elm is not very common. It used to be common, but it died from Dutch elm disease. I will find them now sporadically. I will find them one at a time, and some of them are big. Some of them are quite big. The one that's in this video, you can tell, is quite large, and that's what is exciting about them when you find a good one and it's in good shape. A lot of times I get them from tree services after they've been cut down and after they've been dead for a while. So sometimes they're kind of too far gone, too rotten, can't use them. But sometimes if I'm lucky, and in this case I was lucky, the tree was in really good shape. It was pretty fresh. It didn't show many signs of being dead for very long. It had some bark coming off, but besides that, it was in really good shape and looked brand new. So one of the reasons it's hard to find American elm logs, besides the fact that there's just not many around, is that after they die, they rot pretty quickly. They're not very rot resistant. So I will get my trees normally from tree services, at least that's usually where I find them. And what will happen commonly is they'll be dead in the yard for not very long, and they'll start to get too rotten where you really can't use them. However, if you get them quickly enough before they're rotten, or as they start to rot, they spalt nicely. And you can see here, this is a good demonstration of how they look. This board over here is pretty fresh. This is almost all heartwood. It doesn't have much spalt in it, and it shows, like, I'd say, classic American elm look to it without any rot or anything like that. And as they start to spalt, this is a good one right here. The heartwood's over here, so it spalts less, but the sapwood in this area, you can see it really spalted a lot, and it just looks really pretty. It's hard to get American elm in this state because you need it to start to decay, but get it before it's too far gone. There'll be some spots, there's a couple spots in here, right in here, where it's probably a little bit too soft, needs to be hardened up to use it, but overall, it shows a lot of character when it starts to spalt. One issue with elm, and a gripe you will find from a lot of woodworkers, or at least when you read about it, you'll hear about it, is that it doesn't work well with hand tools. And I will agree with that, but I don't use a lot of hand tools, so it's not really that big of a problem. The grain in it is pretty stringy. Like if you had a log and you went to split it, you could tell it was elm right away, because instead of like an oak or an ash like that where they would just split and come right apart, the elm, it'll split, but it'll just be all intertwined. The grain in it's just like all mixed up, and what that causes, or what that makes happen, is when you're trying to work with hand tools, especially hand planes and things like that, it's just hard to get a good flow. It just is like grabby, and it wants to fight you. However, when you work with power tools, it doesn't really make a difference. You can't really tell anything's going on specifically, except for the fact that it looks a little different, but it doesn't really work any different with power tools. So if you're a power tool user, you will have no problem using elm for anything you're building. Besides the grain pattern, American elm also has a deep chatoyance. The chatoyance is kind of the light reflectivity and the way that the light bounces off of it. Think about silk sheets, something like that, where the way the light, it just looks deep, and the way the light comes off of it. If it's spalted like these, they will lose their chatoyance. They're gonna kind of get chalky a little bit. They'll have different colors in them, but the overall appearance and the depth of the color just won't be as deep. But in a fresh board like this one over here, where it's not spalting, when you get a finish on that, specifically a clear coat on there, it just looks really deep, and it takes on just a whole different It's not really a color, but just a different look to it. It also stains well. The American elm, I like to use dye stains on it. Some of my first projects that I built with American elm, I use dye stains on, and it stains really evenly, stains very consistently, and just takes a nice, especially the dye stains, add to that chatoyance in there, and it just looks really deep. The one thing that you should know about American elm is that it doesn't dry very flat. So if you cut it, especially 4/4 lumber, and put on sticks just like you would any other wood, and dry it, you'll be able to tell that you have American elm or any other elms, because they don't dry very flat. There's some wood, for example, like Eastern red cedar, that you can do almost anything to. You can cut it, throw it outside, forget about it, eventually stack it, and it will still be okay. It'll dry pretty flat and you'll still be able to use it. If you do that with American elm, you won't have anything left. It gets very crooked. I call it cantankerous. It wants to fight back. It doesn't want to just lay there. It probably has to do, I'm sure, with the interlocking grain and the way it's all twisted up inside, but it does not want to stay super flat. So know that, and also know that most of that movement is happening from the time that it's green until that it's dry. Once it's dry, it's pretty good. It doesn't fight back as much, but it will overall be more crooked than other woods. So that'd probably be a drawback of American elm, but not enough that I wouldn't use it. One of the things that I specifically like about American elm is the grain pattern. It looks to me, I explain to people when they're looking at wood and trying to, identify the wood, that to me the American elm looks like feathers. So there'll be the annual rings when you're looking at the face of the board. So specifically this one right here, you'll have the annual ring, you'll have another annual ring, but in between those rings they're kind of like little zigzaggies, and they look to me more like feathers. It shows nice, and it looks unlike any other tree when it's American elm, or specifically elm, and you have it compared to any other wood. You can tell by the grain pattern in it that it's elm, just because it really is unique. So here's a close-up of the American elm, and I want you to look like right in this area, right around here. When it's kind of straight grain, this is kind of rift sawn over here. When it's straight grain like that, it doesn't show up as much, but when you get the nice flat sawn areas, you can see there's a ring and there's a ring, but then in between there's just a bunch of little patterns, which is the interlocking grain. Here's one of the other boards. You can get a good feel for the color, and you can see the grain in between the grain. Here's the annual ring right here. Here's an annual ring, but there's a lot of goings on with a little feather pattern in between the annual rings. It shows up less out here in the rift sawn area as things turn around in the log, but this little feather pattern is really pretty, I think, and a key indicator that you're dealing with an elm. So when you're out and about and you see a tree that you think might be American elm, the key identifier for it is it's vase shaped. So it'll have a main trunk, but then where it would have had a main lead, like say an oak tree or something like that, will have just a main lead up the center. The American elms go up a decent amount and then suddenly go out. So there'll be one main lead and then several smaller leads. I'm Scout Wonder. Thanks for watching this video about American elm. Lovely American elm. Be sure to like, subscribe, tell your friends about it. And until next time, I'll see ya. Bye.